Hey everyone, it's Theresa here of Larkin Design. Welcome back, and today I wanted to share with you a mixed media layout. I'm working with the brand new All the Good Things collection from Vicki Boutin, and I'm so excited. I had some of her things in my cart at scrapbook.com and went ahead and press the buy button. And so I'm going to just work with her products today. I'm starting with the specialty paper pad, and this paper is extra thick. It's designed to accept mixed media, and I couldn't wait to try it because I love doing backgrounds for my scrapbook layouts. And I was really interested in having something that was a little bit more substantial than Basil cardstock. And this paper pad does not disappoint. It has 12 sheets in the pack, and I have no doubt that I'm going to use them all and order another pack over and over and over again, because I really did enjoy working with this paper. So I want to do a mixed media background here, and I'm working with Vicki Boutin stencil. This is the floral that is in the kit. There are 3 in this packet. There's a chandelier, the floral, and there's also a text. And I'm working with modeling paste. The brand I'm using is Liquitex. And I'm just going around the page here and adding this floral element. Now, I'm establishing my design here using this stencil. And so good design is basically how your eye moves around the page. And there are several ways to accomplish that. You've heard of a visual triangle. You can also move your eye around the page diagonally or in a circle. And so I'm going to use the diagonal technique, and I'm starting in the upper left-hand corner, moving across the page and ending at the bottom right-hand corner. So I'm putting down these floral elements in that pattern across the page. And you'll notice real faint, I drew a box around my photo so that I knew where I was planning to put it. And I'm not doing any modeling paste underneath the photo. That way the photo can just adhere directly to the background paper itself and not have any modeling paste interfering behind it. So once I have all of the modeling paste down, I just want to heat set it a little bit and make sure that it is good and dry before I begin adding any more water to the layout. If you add water to modeling paste before it's fully dry, it will smush your pattern or your design. So once I have that all done and it's all dry, now I'm ready to do my favorite part, which is add color. And I also purchased Vicki Boutin's paint set. I did purchase all 12 of them. And so here's the thing. Here's the disclaimer. I'm not telling you that you need to go out and buy all of Vicki Boutin's paints. I can tell you that they are absolutely awesome to work with, and they're a lot of fun. The reason that I purchased them is because I am actually adding to my paint collection, because I feel like I have some colors missing here and there, and I need a few more. And I was also drawn to Vicki's color palette. They're bright, happy colors that you can use year round, right? And I work with these colors all the time. There were like 3 shades of turquoise in the sets. There's a couple of shades of pink. There's red. There's orange and a couple of shades of green and purple. And so that's why I decided to purchase these, and I'm really happy that I did. And so at this stage in the game, in my layout, I'm trying to figure out like specifically what colors I want to work with. And I started with the orange because the photo that I'm using, it's a photo of Alan and myself last fall on Thanksgiving Day, actually. And so there's orange in the leaves, And so starting with orange provides a great foundation to tie in the photo with the background and with the other elements of the page. I'm also going to use purple because there is quite a bit of purple in the All the Good Things collection. And so now I've tied in my photo and my embellishments, my decorative elements that are still to come. And then because there's florals and nature here, I'm using the green as well. And so, of course, you can see that I'm adding a little bit of water to each of the paints. I personally really like having wet paints. The technique that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add paint to the page and then let the water spread or move that paint across the page. And I find that just much easier to do when it's wet. And so I do like to work with wet paints. Other people might be really bothered by that. But I really like that. And watch what happens here, right? When you put the paper down and then you tilt the page, letting that color flow across the paper here suddenly fills that paper with color. And I don't even have to worry about whether it's going in the right place or the wrong place. It's simply letting the process take over. I do have a degree of control over where the paint goes, right? But some of it just takes off. And I love that. I think, for me personally, I think this mirrors life, right? Because we set up what we want to do, and then we have to let it go and let the process take over. And mixed media for me is so therapeutic in that way because I love just watching how these paints move across the page, where they end up, and how you don't really know at this point in time. I don't really know how this is going to turn out. I am leaving it up to the process as to how this turns out. And there's a great freedom that can be scary at first, but there's a really great freedom in letting the process take over. I don't have to be a Picasso type artist here to make a beautiful page. I can just let the process do what it does. One of the things that I loved about this particular page is that when I set that purple to go, when I set it off, it went to the edges and made this nice border. And so I went with that and made sure that I have a purple border going all the way around the layout. It grounds the layout. It sets purple as the primary color here. And I think it frames it nicely. It gave that paint somewhere to go. And just brings it all together. So you'll notice here at this point, I have only worked with the purple paint, and I'm going to heat set it. If you put water back on this purple paint again, it will reactivate. But I want to make sure that I've heat set it at least once before I start with the next color. And so what will happen is that then you can build. And this paint builds really nicely. You'll see here when I add the orange, it blends a little bit with the purple. I didn't want that too much, but just a little bit is fine. And here with the orange, I used a little bit more control over where the paint is going because I did not want the orange paint to take over the purple border. So the orange stays more in the center of the layout, not at the border itself. But you'll notice here how I'm using these paint lines to draw everything together, right? Everything is being tied together, just using paint, just using color, to create this really cohesive background here that is in the process of adding color that becomes really a lot of it really achieves a lot of depth here and visual interest. You'll see here that I did add some paint splatters. I wanted to experiment with that a little bit. And then I lifted up some of the color using a baby wipe. And this, again, is part of the process. Putting paint down, lifting paint up, putting it back down again, and just experimenting and flowing this whole process through. The third color here, again, is this teal green, and I am just in love with this teal right now. I said something to Natalie the other day about how I was loving teal lately, and she just looked at me with the biggest shocked look. She said, "What? You're not liking turquoise right now?" I said, don't worry. Turquoise isn't going anywhere." But teal for me right now has really kind of captured my imagination. So I'm going with it. And for this teal here, what's interesting is that this floral stencil did not have any leaves per se, but I still want the feeling of leaves in my background. So that's what I'm using the green for here. Just a little touches. Notice that I changed brushes here, so I'm using a thinner brush to add the green because I don't want it to be as heavy as the purple. This is just a tiny bit of accent here and there. And again, this will all serve when I go to select the embellishments, you'll see how this all ties together. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. This part of the process really is it's exciting to me, and I love doing this. I just love watching this come to life and watching this blank page become colorful. And what you'll see that I'm doing here is just, I am deliberately going back and filling in some of the petals with purple. At this point, I am sort of layering colors that haven't been heat set, but carefully. I'm doing it carefully here. And that's fine. It all worked out beautifully. Notice also how I have chipboard underneath the page here, and I just keep a couple of chipboard sheets nearby so that I can change them out when I'm changing colors or whatever, and it just catches some of those drips. I will say that there were a couple of times where the paint did land on my desk, and it's so forgiving, it just wiped right up with a baby wipe. So this, I found that these paints were really easy to work with. They blend beautifully on the page. Notice here I'm adding a few more paint splatters using the green, and that really makes that pop. Because again, I didn't want to add a lot of green, but here is where I went through all the embellishments. Boom, the background is done. And here's where I added where I went through and picked out what of the embellishments were going to go with this background. And then I decided, as you can see here, that I wanted to add a little bit of this text stencil. And I debated doing it in black. You can see here, I'm just sort of playing around. In the photo that I'm using for this layout, Alan is wearing a black jacket. And actually, my mother taught me, she always taught me, any sort of creative endeavor, any layout that you're doing, any room that you're designing, it needs a little bit of black. And you'll find that in my digital collections, there's always a little bit of black and white. And so that's why I had considered using the black with the stencil. But then I also knew that I was going to do a gold title. There's some gold word foam. There's some gold foam word titles with this collection. And so I decided to add gold with this stencil around the background just to repeat the gold element. Anything that you add to a page, and any color, any element, any texture that you add to a page, repeat it somewhere, right? So just like there's black in the photo, repeat the black on the layout somewhere. I'm going to use a gold title, so repeat gold somewhere else as well. This creates a familiarity in your layout so that when you see the elements on the page, it flows and it's repeating elements like that. Repetition is a very effective way to create a pleasing aesthetic on your page. That was just a whole bunch of design speak for repeat colors and elements. There, boom. So I added the glaze. I added the glitter to a glaze. I just had it. It's a Liquitex glaze. Vicki has a glaze as well. She has several like gold and silver and clear, I think. I don't have those yet. But I added the fine glitter to the glaze, used that with the stencil, and then poured some of the thicker glaze or some of the thicker glitter over top of that and created just little splotches of glitter here on the page. They're not very bold or big. The purpose is not to have glitter text. It's just to have a little touches of glitter around the page that will reinforce the glitter title that I'm going to add later. And so here's where the fun begins with the embellishments, right? And so I've chosen embellishments that feature orange, purple, and green. But I've also introduced a couple of other colors too. I'm using the pink, right? And so as long as I repeat the pink in more than one place, then I've created a cohesive layout here. I am all about color. I'm all about putting every color on a layout that you like. You absolutely can use any color. I know that we like to stick with color palettes because that does help guide us and direct us in our color choices. But I have to say that the color combinations in All the Good Things and in this paint collection are on point, and you can't go wrong with any of these colors. They all work beautifully together. So I'm just going to tuck in two little embellishment clusters here around the photo. One on the right-hand side, and that's going to be the bigger embellishment cluster because it balances the stencils that are on the left-hand side. So when you're deciding, well, how do I layer my embellishments when I have this background, right? And so the basis for this large cluster on the right-hand side is actually that one stenciled floral that's on the bottom right-hand corner of the photo, right? That it becomes the basis of this cluster, and then everything grows out from there. Yeah, I know, I'm punny today. All the flowers grew out from that one stencil, from that one stenciled floral element. And you can see here I'm struggling a little bit with this leaf. I had put it down, I adhered it down, and then didn't like it, and pulled it back out, and then put it right back in the same place. So, indecision, but just go with it, right? And notice that I've left one flower, that yellow flower, is overlapping the photo. Everything else is tucked underneath the photo, but that one flower is on top of the photo, and that is the focal point here. The focal point being that your eye is drawn to this one floral element that stands out, the flowers that come out around it, and the photo. And they're right there by the focal point of the photo. So there's a very clear place here where your eye lands, but your eye also moves around the page here because good design tells your eye where to go. So I did add a little banner at the top here and another little offspring or offshoot from that one floral die cut. and then the little birds at the bottom, the purple and green bird and the orange and yellow bird. And there's my repeated black at the bottom right-hand corner, that little love heart. There's my black, and then I'm using black ink again, and that repeats black again as well. So I'm going to stamp my date here. This was Thanksgiving, so the 23rd of November. And then I'm just creating a couple of lines here for some journaling. And what I'm talking about in my journaling is how this photo reflects how Alan makes me feel. And he's kissing me under my ear and I'm laughing. And so I wrote about how that's what I want to remember. I want to remember how loved he makes me feel. I want to remember how much he makes me laugh. And this layout just conveys all of that with these bright, happy colors, a really happy photo here. And then to tie it all together, here's my title and the perfect words, my happy heart. And so those are the words I'm going to use here. I did have some questions about should the title go on the right or the left, and I ended up just layering it here on top of this other floral element. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching this process. It's been a lengthy one today, but it's been a lot of fun to create. And I hope that you'll be inspired. Go use your paints today. Go get creative. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe. And I'll see you back here again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.